Alrighty, guys. UC Davis takes on Boston University, 2 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Monday, November 28th, 2022. The UC Davis Aggies are minus 3.5, totals 140 and a hook. And if you like the Terriers of Boston, an upset win here, they're plus $1.50 for some money line cash. I'm 4-0 my last 4 board member tier package bets on my website. And I'll include a link for today's board member tier package bet in the description section below. Just remember, guys, if you sign up for that package here today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, I'm also going to include all my cheaper memberships for you absolutely free. They'll be included with your purchase. I currently have over 630 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. Now, Boston U is doing a pretty nice job on defense. They're allowing only 64 points a game, and they're limiting their competition to just 40% shooting from the field. When it comes to offensive production, Walter White, that's right, Heisenberg, he's scoring a team-best 13 points a game, along with 6 boards. Jonas Harper's averaging double-digit points a night himself. Now, they're facing a UC Davis team who failed to cover in their last 2 straight. When it comes to defensive play, they're having a tough time guarding the 3-ball. They're allowing over 72 points a game, and they're letting their opponents knock down 42% of their 3-pointers against them. Now, injury-wise, 2 out of UC Davis's last 3 did get over the line. Meanwhile, Boston saw overs against the likes of Hartford, UConn, and Northeastern. I'm going to lean toward Boston U plus 4 over 140.5. Next matchup, Dartmouth taking on Grambling, 4 o'clock East. Dartmouth's minus 1, totals 139. Now, Dartmouth's coming fresh off an overtime win over UTSA, Texas San Antonio. They scored 70 points or more this season in 5 out of 6 games. Dusan Neskovich is scoring 13 points a night, and he's also drilling over 53% of his 3-pointers. Meanwhile, Ryan Cornish, he's drilling 50% of his shots from beyond the arc himself. And no real surprise here, guys. Dartmouth is averaging 78 points a game offensively. Now, they're facing a Grambling squad who lost 3 out of their last 4. And they average only 52 points a game in those losses. When it comes to shooting the basketball, the Tigers have been pretty bad. They're making only 63% of their foul shots and just 29% of their 3-pointers. Now, total-wise, Grambling saw their last 4 straight stay under the number. Unders against the likes of Incarnate, UTSA, and Arizona State. I'm going to lean toward Dartmouth minus 1 under 139. Next matchup, it is going to be Minnesota at Virginia Tech, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Virginia Tech's minus 13, totals 127.5. And even though the Hokies are big favorites, they've struggled covering the number this year. They failed to cover in their last 5 straight, and they're having a real tough time grabbing offensive boards. They're facing a Minnesota team who's 4-2 to start the year themselves, and they play some really tough defense. They're allowing only 62 points a game, and they're limiting their opponents to just 37% shooting from the field. When it comes to offensive production, Dawson Garcia is scoring a team-best 15 points a game. He's making nearly 47% of his field goals. Meanwhile, Talon Cooper is knocking down 60% of his shots from 3-land. Now, injury-wise, Ramberg is questionable for the Gophers. When it comes to the total, Minnesota saw all their games stay under the line except for 1. Virginia Tech saw their last 3 straight stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Minnesota plus 13. Under 127.5. Next ball game, UL Monroe taking on Tulane, and that'll be a 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Tulane's minus 18, totals 140. Now, Tulane's won 4 of 6 to start the year, and they're doing a nice job on the offensive end of the court. They're averaging nearly 80 points a game, and they're also in the top 15 in shooting from the stripe. Jalen Forbes is knocking down over 94% of his free throws, 16 points a game for the guard. Meanwhile, Jalen Cook's leading the program with 23 points per contest. Now, they're facing a UL Monroe team who lost their last 4 straight. They play some pretty bad defense. Their opponents are making 46% of their field goals against them. When it comes to offensive production, the Warhawks have one of the lower three-point percentages in the Sun Belt. Now, total-wise, UL Monroe saw overs against the likes of TCU and Texas A&M. Meanwhile, Tulane saw 2 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Tulane minus 18 over 140. Next matchup, McNeese State taking on TENN-MARTIN, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. TENN-MARTIN's the 8-point favorite, totals 145. Now, the TENN-MARTIN Skyhawks got the W in 3 out of their last 5. And they're doing a nice job on offense. They're scoring over 80 points a game, and they're also in the top 35 in the nation in offensive boards. KJ Simon's grabbing nearly 5 rebounds a game. He's also the team's leading scorer with 14 points a night. Now, Parker Stewart, he's scoring 14 points a game himself, along with 4 boards. They're facing a McNeese State team who lost 4 out of their last 5, and they're struggling on defense. They're actually letting their opponents make 47% of their field goals against them. When it comes to offensive production, this is one of the worst foul shooting teams in the nation. They're making only 61% of their free throws. Now, total-wise, TENN-MARTIN saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the number. Overs against the likes of Prairie View, Ole Miss, and Youngstown State. I'm going to lean toward TENN-MARTIN minus 8 over 145. Next matchup, Columbia taking on Marist, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Marist is minus 7, totals 136. Now, Columbia is yet to win a game away from home this season. They're giving up 77 points a game defensively. They're letting their opponents make nearly 49% of their field goals against them. They're facing a Marist club who does a pretty nice job of offensive rebounding. Patrick Gardner is grabbing over 7.5 rebounds a night. He's also the team's leading scorer with 16 points a game. Now, Javon Cooley is knocking down 41% of his shots from downtown. When it comes to the total, Marist saw their last 4 straight stay under the number. Meanwhile, Columbia saw unders against the likes of Providence and Delaware State. I'm going to lean toward Marist minus 7, under 136. Next ball game, it is going to be Incarnate Word taking on UTSA. That's Texas San Antonio, and that'll be a 7:30 Eastern start time. UTSA's minus 8, totals 134.5. Now, UTSA did fail to cover in their last 2 straight. They allowed 75 points or more in their last 3 straight as well. Those were contests against Dartmouth, Grambling, and Prairie View. When it comes to offensive production, the Roadrunners are making only 40% of their field goals. They're also struggling making their three-pointers. They're facing an Incarnate Word team who's one of the better teams in the country in guarding the 3-ball. They're actually limiting their competition to just 29% shooting from beyond the arc. They're also on a 3-game winning streak, 4-0 against the spread in their last 4. Charlie Yoder scoring 11 points a game along with 3 rebounds. Meanwhile, Jonathan Sissy's making 52% of his 3-pointers. Now, total-wise, IW saw their last 3 straight stay under the number. Unders against the likes of Grambling, Dartmouth, and Valparaiso. Meanwhile, Texas San Antonio saw 3 out of their last 5 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward IW plus 8, under 134.5. Next contest, Nebraska Omaha taking on Mississippi State, 7:30 p.m. East. Mississippi State's minus 24, totals 128. Now, the undefeated Bulldogs, they're arguably the best defensive team in the country right now. They're giving up just 48 points a game, which actually puts them in the top 3 in the nation in that category. They're also limiting their opponents to just 32% shooting from the field. That also puts them in the top 3 in the country in defensive field goal percentage. Now, Tolu Smith, he's scoring a team-best 15 points a game, along with 11 boards. Meanwhile, Deshaun Davis, he's gone a staggering 12 of 17 from 3-land. That's good for 71% in that category. Now, they're facing a Nebraska Omaha team who's giving up 77 points a game themselves, and they're ranking the bottom 30 in the nation in guarding the 3-ball. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, the Mavericks are also in the bottom 30 in offensive boards. Now, total-wise, NCAAB saw 3 out of their last 5 stay under the line, throwing out that Southern game. Meanwhile, Mississippi State saw all of their contests this year stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Mississippi State minus 24 and the under 128 in that tight window. Next ball game, it is going to be Texas Southern taking on Kansas, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. The Kansas Jayhawks are minus 23, totals 139. Now, the Jayhawks are scoring nearly 75 points a game. They're one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the nation. Jalen Wilson's grabbing nearly double-digit rebounds a night. He's also averaging a team-best 22 points per contest. Meanwhile, teammate Grady Dick, he's making 48% of his shots from long range. Terrible name, great three-point shooter. Now they're facing a one-win Texas Southern team who allows over 78 points a game. They're also in the bottom 10 in the country in defensive boards. And I'll tell you this much, if that ain't bad enough, well, the Tigers are in the bottom 5 in the nation in offensive field goal percentage themselves, really struggling shooting the basketball. They're making just 37% of their shots from the field. When it comes to the injury report, Pettiford, McCarthy, and Evers are still out for the Jayhawks. Now, total-wise, I'm not sure the Tigers can score enough to help put this one over. Texas Southern also saw their last 6 straight stay under the line. Meanwhile, Kansas saw unders against the likes of Tennessee, Duke, and North Dakota State. I'm going to lean toward Kansas minus 23 and the under 139 in that tight window as well. Next ball game, it is going to be Southeast Missouri State taking on Milwaukee, and that's going to be an 8 o'clock Eastern start time. UW-Milwaukee is minus 2.5, totals 142. Now, Milwaukee got the W in their last 2 straight, and they've done a pretty nice job defensively. They're holding their opponents to just 37% shooting from the field. They're also in the top 30 in guarding the three-pointer. When it comes to offensive production, B.J. Freeman scoring a team-best 11 points a game. He's also drilling just about 40% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Angelo Stewart's making 90% of his free throws, along with nearly double-digit points a game. Now, they're facing a Southeast Missouri team who doesn't shoot it all that well themselves. These guys are making just 41% of their field goals. They also took the loss in 2 out of their last 4 losses against the likes of UC Davis and Bradley. Now, total-wise, the Redhawks saw all of their games this year stay under the number. Meanwhile, Milwaukee saw 3 out of their last 5 stay under the line. I'm going to lean toward Milwaukee minus 2.5, under 142. Next ball game, it is going to be Troy taking on Arkansas, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. The Arkansas Razorbacks are minus 17.5, totals 140 and a hook. And even though they're the heavy favorite, the Razorbacks did fail to cover this year against the likes of Creighton, South Dakota State, and North Dakota State. They've also been little threat shooting the 3-ball this year. Arkansas is making just 29% of their three-pointers. Now, they're facing a one-loss Troy team who does a nice job on defense themselves. They're holding their competition to just 31% shooting from three-land. They're also in the top 10 in the nation in defensive rebounding. Nelson Phillips grabs 6 rebounds a night, and he also ranks second on the team in scoring. Meanwhile, Duke Miles, he's dropping a team-best 14 points a game. He's also making 47% of his three-pointers. Now, total-wise, Troy saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the number. Meanwhile, Arkansas saw their last 2 straight get over the line themselves. Overs against the likes of San Diego State and Creighton. I'm going to lean toward Troy plus 17.5, keeping this one close, over 140 and a hook. Next matchup, it is going to be Longwood taking on San Diego, and that'll be a 9 o'clock Eastern start time. San Diego's minus 3, totals 141. Now, San Diego did lose 3 out of their last 4, and they're really struggling defensively. They're actually letting their opponents make 42% of their three-pointers against them. They're also facing a Longwood team on the other side who's been a legit threat shooting the deep ball themselves. These guys are actually making 40% of their three-pointers as a team, and they're averaging 83 points a game. Isaiah Wilkins, he's scoring a team-best 11 points a night. Meanwhile, Leslie Carawam, he's averaging double-digit points a game himself. He's also making 68% of his field goals. Now, total-wise, Longwood did see 3 out of their last 4 get over the number. Meanwhile, San Diego saw overs against the likes of New Mexico State, Utah State, and Florida Gulf Coast. I'm going to lean toward Longwood +3 over 141. Next ball game, Pitt, Northwestern, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. The Northwestern Wildcats are -7, totals 128. And even though they've been real tough on defense, Northwestern doesn't score enough to cover this number. They're averaging just 65 points a game, and they're making only 39% of their field goals. Now, they're facing a Pitt team who won their last 3 straight. They do a pretty nice job on defense themselves. These guys are limiting their competition to just 30% shooting from 3 land. When it comes to offensive production, Jamarius Burton scoring 14 points a game, and he's making 43% of his 3-pointers. Now, Blake Hinson, he's the team's leading scorer with 16 points a game himself. When it comes to the total, 2 out of Pitt's last 3 did stay under the line. Unders against the likes of Fairleigh Dickinson and Alcorn State. Meanwhile, Northwestern saw all of their games this season stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Pitt Panthers +7 under 128. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Sam Houston State squaring off against Nevada, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Now, the Nevada Wolfpacks -4, totals 130. And the one-loss Nevada Wolfpack, they've done a real nice job against the number this season. They're 5-1 against the spread in their last 6. And they're also in the top 20 in guarding the field goal. The Wolfpack's actually limiting their competition to just 36% shooting from the field, 27% shooting from 3 land. When it comes to offensive production, Jared Lucas scores over 17 points a game. He's also making nearly 40% of his 3-pointers. Now, Will Baker is second on the team in scoring with 13 points a night. They're taking on a Sam Houston team who's actually had sustained success themselves, but they do struggle at shooting from the stripe. Sam Houston's making just 65% of their free throws. I also think their strength of schedule in the early going here has been a little bit questionable. They're beating up on teams like South Dakota, Les Tourneaux, and Southwestern Adventist College. Now, those are actual basketball teams they played. Les Tourneaux College and Southwestern Adventist College. Never heard of them in my life. Now, total-wise, 3 out of Sam Houston's last 4 did stay under the number. Meanwhile, Nevada went 4-1 to the under in their last 5. Now, Nevada, I'm going to lean to them. Nevada -4, under 130. Next ball game, Seattle taking on Washington, 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Washington's -4, totals 141. Now, the Huskies have played some really tough defense this year. They're holding their opponents to just 39% shooting from the field. They're also in the top 25 in defensive 3-point percentage. When it comes to offensive production, Kean Brooks is scoring 15 points a game. He's also averaging 7 rebounds. Meanwhile, Kean Menefield, he's knocking down over 45% of his 3-pointers. The guard's also scoring 12 points a game. They're facing a Seattle squad who's beating up on teams like Portland, Puget Sound, and Pacific Lutheran. When it comes to shooting from the stripe, these guys are making only 68% of their free throws. Now, total-wise, Seattle saw unders against the likes of Portland State. Meanwhile, Washington saw unders against Fresno and Weber State. I'm going to lean toward Washington -4, under 141. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Cal Poly taking on University of Pacific. That'll be a 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Pacific's -8, totals 141.5. And even though they are favored, the UOP Tigers have lost their last 3 straight. And they failed to cover in all 3 of those games. Those were actually losses against the likes of Idaho, Mount St. Mary's, and Cal State Fullerton. And aside from giving up 81 points a game, the Tigers are arguably the worst rebounding team in college basketball. They're facing a Cal Poly team who covered this year against the likes of Idaho and San Francisco. When it comes to defensive play, these guys have done a pretty nice job. They're allowing only 68 points per contest, and they're limiting their opponents to just 31% shooting from three-land. When it comes to offensive production, Ali Koroma, he's scoring a team-best 14 points a game. Meanwhile, Trayvon Taylor is averaging 11 points per contest, along with 6 boards. Now, total-wise, Cal Poly saw their last 2 straight get over the number. Meanwhile, Pacific saw all of their games this year get over the line except for one. I'm going to lean toward Cal Poly plus 8 and the over 141.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. I like Boston U plus 4 over 140.5. Dartmouth minus 1 under 139. I'm 4-0 my last 4 board member tier package bets on my website. And just a reminder, if you sign up for my board member tier package bet, you're going to get access to that package for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all my cheaper personal bets absolutely free. They'll be included with your purchase. I like Minnesota plus 13 under 127.5. Tulane minus 18 over 140. Tennessee-Martin minus 8 over 145. Marist minus 7 under 136. Incarnate Word plus 8 under 134.5. Mississippi State minus 24 under 128. Kansas minus 23 under 139. Milwaukee minus 2.5 under 142. Troy plus 17.5 over 140 and a hook. Longwood plus 3 over 141. Pitt Panthers plus 7 under 128. Nevada minus 4 under 130. Washington minus 4 under 141. And with my next and final free pick, give me Cal Poly plus 8 over 141.5.